Welcome everyone to our second episode of a new series called You Know Nothing, where we cover the latest news and strategies around ASOIAF, the miniature game. I am the Brick, and today I have Kai with me. He is from Indonesia. Yeah. All right, so let's quick breakdown. Kai, how do you think stocks have been faring in the current meta in S04?
Well, I think they're in a very good place. They're one of the better factions. They're one of the harder hitting factions. And they have, most importantly, they have a lot of options now. I think there's very few unusable units. There are some units that's clearly above the rest, but even the things like bruisers that nobody used before, I've been using them, and I've been having a blast with them. So yeah, I think they're a very fun faction now. They are one of the older factions and they have more options, but there were times where a lot of their options were just not usable. It's not like that anymore. You can make a very diverse list with Stark now. So yeah, it's in a good place, I think.
Okay, so with that said, let's start moving on to our analysis of the new unit. As you all know today from the title in the screen, we are doing analysis of the Winterfell Guard. All right, so let's start analyzing the unit. All right, the Winterfell Guard is a 7 points flex bunker with bonuses based on what zone it has or what zone your faction is currently controlling. It comes with adaptive, so it's a 1 point reduction for your first attachment. It has precision, and if it controls swords, they roll their highest attack dice value. If it controls maneuver, it gets to +1 to their defense dice save roll. Yeah. Also in this unit box, there's also the Winterfell champion that costs 1 point. However, for today, we will not be analyzing this unit. It has crit blow and weaken upon charging, but yeah, we will analyze it in a future video. So let's start looking at the Winterfell Guard again. So what I think it is, it's a Swiss Army knife unit where you can slot many attachments in because it has adaptive. So anytime when you want to look at a unit with adaptive, you must consider the combination. So what do you think, Kai?
Well, Stark has quite a bit of 1 point attachment, and they don't have that many 7 pointers infantry. I think the only other ones that they have would be the great axes, right? So having a second one, especially one with adaptive, I think is pretty good. It has an elite stat line of defense 4, morale 5, could be defense 3, which is amazing. I still complain to this day every time I see a model with a two-handed weapon, but they don't have sundering. But precision's not bad either. So I think they have their use for sure, and we're going to see all the options that they can bring. In this video.
If you want sundering, you can slap a Stormcrow lieutenant in there.
No.
That's bad advice.
Because then you'll need 3 zones, right? Because then you'll need 3 different zones.
All right. So with that said, let's start analyzing which combinations will work better with the Winterfell Guard. Okay. So there's 3 main categories of abilities that I have identified to spice up this Winterfell Guard unit. All right. So 3 categories. The first category of note is what I call the Tanky Combos. These are the attachments that buffs the unit's defense stats or make them more tanky. So they are Braun, Brynden Tully, the 2-point version, and Great John Umber. So the first group of abilities, are fancy tools. They're meant to be defensive. But you take note that some of these are more expensive at 2 points. But the good news is you have adaptive. So even though it's 2 points, it's more like 1 point. So it becomes an 8-point unit. Now, an 8-point unit as an infantry is still questionable, but sometimes in this current meta, when everyone's running 4-3 lists, it's somewhat reliable to run 8-point unit these days.
Okay. I've seen people bring 9-point units if it's good enough. So I think 8-point, if it's good enough, it's not that big of a problem nowadays, especially because there's less of an incentive to go 8 activations now. 7 activations seems to be perfectly usable. So it going up to 8, it's not that big of a downside, at least to me.
Sure. So let's run through the 3 that I have in mind today. First is Braun. Obviously, it gives, if you control bags, it gives +1 save, +1 morale, as well as motivated by coin, which means it can slap with a back attack. So why is Braun good? Is you can either get +1 save from bags or horse, so it's that flexibility that is honestly something to think about. The second attachment is Brynden Tully. Why? He has Dauntless and Iron Resolve. I think we're starting to realize that Iron Resolve in the current meta is starting to become very reliable.
Yeah.
So I like Iron Resolve personally because there are a lot of plus panic damage in the current meta. Yeah. Don't forget, everyone's favorite Tully Kev is still around the meta. You could combine with Tully Kev. Brynden Tully himself has Dauntless. Combined with Rally Banner from the Tully Kev, you can heal 2 whenever they pass Morale. So that's something to think about. The last guy is obviously 2-point Great John Umber. Why? He has 2 the last. I don't think I have to explain anymore.
Yeah. Suddenly, Stark is pretending that they're Baratheons with all these combos of being tanky.
Yeah.
And you don't see that a lot, but I think it's really fun that a faction can do more than just what their initial design can do, right? So tanky Stark, that's fun to me. It gives variety to the faction.
Yeah. So when you think about it, whether you play 2 lists or 3 lists, you have more variety to make more lists with different flexes. So it makes the meta more interesting when people can bring off meta things and shake things up a little bit. Yeah. All right, now let's go on to the next category. I call it woof woof. I had to do it. Sorry, it's a dead joke.
Oh God.
Okay, who doesn't like point reduction with woofs? Both me and Kai know about the days of 1.6 or version 1.6 and before, where cheap woofs made up for some incredibly high activation list. Now, obviously, it won't be the same, but activation advantage is still something to think about because you could potentially do a 6-2 list or maybe even a 6-3 list. I don't think 6-3 is possible, but maybe someone can spice that out and find it out. Okay, so how much can you squeeze into your list? Your imagination is your limit. Yeah.
No, the limit is 3. There's only 3 wolves.
That's fair, but you can still do 6 combat unit 3 NCU.
Yes.
I don't think the math is there, but it's still something to consider.
Yeah.
So wolves have always been reliable. Not super good, but you can play a 4-3 list with 1 wolf and then have 3 hard hitting units. That 3-point unit gives you flexibility in your list building. Yeah. All right. You have anything?
Yeah, and it's Stark. When you're thinking about what makes a faction unique, the Starks have direwolves. No other factions. Well, Nightwatch does, but technically, he the one that brings the wolf is also a Stark boy. So, you know.
Yeah. All right. So now let's go to the last category of attachments for combinations. They are what I call the damage dealers. All right. So the 3 you see on the slides or screen is the Winterfell Champ, the Sworn Sword Captain, and Ramsay and Rick. 2-point Ramsay to be specific, not Commander Ramsay. Hey, so why not hit hard with these attachments? Winterfell Champ gives it crit blow and weaken upon charging, which is honestly not bad because it has precision and crit blow. It's a pretty much Dario without the penalty of rolling ones and taking wounds. You also have Sworn Sword Captains with martial training, which might be the best bet because precision is usually not reliable until you get rerolls, which martial training gives rerolls. Now, my favorite is actually Ramsay, because Ramsay has Fueled by Slaughter, and as we all know from Blood Riders from maybe 1 to 2 updates ago, Blood Riders with Fueled by Slaughter make it very tough to kill for a unit. Yeah, and it has intimidating presence, so that's always a nice bonus to push additional damage. Also, the other thing to consider is in the Stark basic tactics deck, there is Northern Ferocity, was it? Yes, Northern Ferocity. That gives Vicious. So that gives you some synergy, even though it's a little bit unreliable because you have to draw the card. But hey, it's an option. Okay. And obviously, Rick gives you AoE Panic Token, which is honestly very good against certain factions like Free Folk or, well, maybe Greyjoy. Yeah. So Winterfell Guard can serve as a flex bunker out there with all these attachments. Do you have any other input, Kai?
Yeah, well, I personally really like martial training for the same reason that you do. Precision doesn't do as much if it doesn't get reroll. The other 1-point option that I think is interesting is the Umber Champion. because it gives it vicious and it gives it highest attack. So lots of interesting option for damage dealing.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so with the attachments now covered, now let's look at the NCU combination. Kai will be going through this second half. Going through the second half of the combination segment.
Okay. All right. Well, when you look at the unit itself, it relies on controlling zones. So the most obvious NCU is Peter Baelish, because he can help you by giving you control of certain zones in the turn that you need it. So if it's the turn where you think you're going to take the hit, you use him to control horse, making the unit 3+ on the defense. And then the second one here is Arya, and Arya is just really solid all around, I feel. But because this unit excels on the charge, because it has precision, Arya can get them out of engagement range so that they can charge back in, or it can put them into position where they can charge and take advantage of their pretty good offense. And of course, the last one is Caitlyn, and Caitlyn gives them it keeps them without token, right? And it gives them their highest attack, which they would get anyway if you control sword, but sometimes you don't control swords, and their last rank isn't that great, so Caitlyn kind of negates that. And because if you have precision, you really don't want to have weakened token. It's bad enough that you have to roll 6 once. If you have to roll it twice, it's not going to be a good day for you. So Caitlyn always solid. And now let's see which commander can potentially.
You had one more NCU you want to talk about, right? Before we continue on.
Actually, yes. So the other one that I normally put in my list is actually Roderick NCU, because he gives rerolls. And as we mentioned before, precision with rerolls infinitely better than just precision. So the free rerolls, even if you go into bogs, even if you get roll the 1 on your charge, that reroll will really make that precision worth it. Because again, precision without rerolls is a pretty sad thing. And so now we can talk about commanders that potentially work well with these guys, and I do have some ideas for those as well. Okay. All right, so I go into the next one now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first of all, the Stark core tactic deck really helps this unit being aggressive, because it has a lot of offensive cards. Winter's Might, Northern Ferocity. It gives that extra hitting power, whether through Sundering or through Vicious or rerolls. Stark is just not lacking at all in terms of attack cards. So, and with some NCU to support them for the mobility and sustain, I think they're in a good faction. They're in a faction that can really take advantage of their abilities. But the funny thing is, normally we look at elite units at 7 point and we think, hey, it's a commander bunker, right? At least that's how I think when I make a list. But this unit, it has adaptive. So adaptive, if you don't know, it's -1 cost for your attachment, and since commander costs 0, these are actually the unit that you don't want your commanders in. Yeah. But the tactic cards will still help them. And so we're looking at 3 commanders potentially for this unit. The first one is Eddard Stark, right? Eddard himself won't be in this. Eddard will most likely be in Eddard's honor guard, but he always could use a second elite infantry, and he has all the good cards with it. He has Fury for the Fallen. He has Lead by Examples, things that can really take advantage of this unit holding the front line. And then there's great cards that Eddard just bring to this, and they can be more aggressive with Eddard because they want to get hit. So Eddard can charge back, or you can use lead. You can use Fury for the Fallen with them. So Eddard's just really solid with this unit.
But like we covered the NCUs earlier. This, if you're gonna use Eddard, you probably want to use Arya, because that gives you flexibility with the movement. Fury for the Fallen can be a tricky card to work with when you're fighting against experienced player. But
Mm.
Aya usually sets up the play for Fury for the Fallen to work when Eddard on the gut is in the flank, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next, the second commander is Maege. Maege is one of my favorite commanders, really. I think she has a lot of really fun cards. And her cards also work pretty well with Winterfell Guardian to hold the line because she's more of a tank commander. We have Here We Stand so they don't die. You can heal them with support of Bear Island so that they don't drop to the last rank. And Sustained Assault on these guys also pretty good because, like we said, normally when they're already engaged, they lose quite a bit, but Sustained Assault can help with that. So yeah, she's just a really great commander for Winterfell guards. You can hold the line, can keep the pressure going.
Yeah.
And finally, the last one is Brynden. Now, Brynden is also another defensive commander for Stark. He has Set for Charge and Refuse to Yield. And both of these cards, they keep this unit alive, especially if you give him one of the tanky attachments that we talked about earlier, right?
Yep.
So Brynden, I think, can really make these units super tanky, especially if you control the horse, because then they'd have 3+ save, like a better version probably of Thorn Shield. Well, not better, a different version, one that can actually hit things. And so now we move to the next segment where we show you some of the sample lists that we have built.
All right, I'll be taking over in this segment again. So in this segment, we'll explore a few lists that we have built to showcase the Winterfell card with 3 different commanders. So first up, let's look at the list with Brynden Tully. Now, a lot of people will question my Brynden Tully list, but please hear me out because those that play with me know I like to build silly lists, just to be clear. Okay, so why I built this list? As you know, it's partly because of the wolf. So I'm using Winterfell Guard with Recon to give it +1 morale, which is honestly good. So it drops to 4+ morale. But I get a Shaggy Dog. And I get to squeeze a Tully Kev. I get to squeeze 6-point Eddard, Sansa, and Arya. Now, why is Brynden Tully in Dervish? If you're not familiar with this combo is now even better than before because Dervish morale has been buffed multiple times. I think it's on 5+ morale now, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So why is Dervish with Brynden Tully? Because if you draw Set for Charge, you can hit them. And let's say they charge you. You play Set for Charge, you hit them, you Swift Strike away, they wasted their charge. So this is the meme combo that I always used to play just to disturb my opponent. It doesn't win games, but because of the flexibility of having 6-point Eddard, having a Winterfell Guard, and having a Tully Cavalier with Winterfell Guardian, it becomes quite an oppressive, potentially a very oppressive hit and run list.
Yeah, you will anger some of your friends if you do that more than once in a game.
Yeah. So the reason I have Sansa is to take back Set for Charge.
Yeah.
So what do you think of my list?
I will always shoot that this unit. I will never charge it if I'm playing against you, unless I have something like counterplot or winter is coming. I will never charge that unit. The risk of wasting a turn is just too scary, you know.
And then I'll just be more aggressive with my dervishes.
Yeah, well. Yeah, this is a very Josh list, I think.
Yeah, so I like to build funky lists. So I built a slightly serious list in the previous video, but I would like to build something more silly in this video. It still has a lot of good options like Tully Kev with 6-point Eddard. Still good. It's just
I think so.
I like to build, weird funky combos. Yeah.
Your opponent doesn't like it, but
who cares? I'm here to make myself have fun. Nah, I'm kidding, guys. So just for clarification, so I don't get cancelled. Try to play games, try to make friends. Yeah, don't scare your opponent away. All right, so with Brynden Tully out of the way, let's look at the next commander. I believe it is Great John Umber, right?
Right.
Yeah,
this is the one. This is the one that I made. And you told me to make two lists, and you said make one that you think can be competitive and one that you just really like, right? So I
Yeah,
think this is the competitive one because Great John is the best commander in Stark for now. I think
yeah,
his cards are just too good, right? But he does need bodies because a lot of his card requires you to lose wounds. So in this list, I put him in a Stark Soren Sword because it's cheap and it can still deal a lot of damage with his cards. The second unit is a House Tully Cavalier because it's the best cavalry in the game. Why not bring it? And if you've ever been charged by a Tully Cavalier that then uses Berserker tactics, you have seen real top tier offense is in this game. And so the Winterfell Guard itself here, I use it as a bunker for Rickon, who I honestly feel that Rickon is the best of the Star Kids in terms of attachments because he's 1 point, but he brings quite a bit, right? He brings +1 morale, so their morale is even better. He has counter strike, he has stubborn tenacity, and more importantly, I think he has the best wolf out of the three Stark kids in the Stark army. He can bring Shaggy Dog, which again synergizes like crazy with Great John's card. Use Berserker tactic on Shaggy Dog, he's gonna kill a unit. If he dies, you use Last Stand, he's gonna kill a unit. So Shaggy Dog and Great John goes well in hand. And the last one is Crown X-Men Tracker because it does so much. It traps your opponent. It deals passive damage. Um, it gives you vulnerable token, which is always useful. And so yeah, that's 5 units you can use to control objectives and kill people. And the NCU is a very standard suite: Sansa, Roderick, and Caitlyn, because that's the only one that you can fit with 12 point remaining. But yeah,
yeah. That's
that's the
fair.
list.
I'm quite curious. Why do you consider 5 point Eddard in this list?
Uh, it's actually one of my favorite NCU. You can block so much with him. If I had an extra point, I would probably swap one of them, probably Roderick, uh, or Caitlyn for him. But yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah,
out of points.
yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Mm,
Yeah. Nothing else to say about your list aside from maybe Stark Sword could be shifted to a cast up loyalist or
could be,
cutthroats or whatever.
could
But
be.
yeah, it's flexible in that sense.
Yeah. The Stark has a lot of 5 point options that are good nowadays, so
Yeah,
it's just pretty interesting to build a list with them.
yeah. So this is well, what you consider the more competitive list of the two.
Mhm.
So with that said, let's move on. Let's look at the final list, which I believe is Commander Howland Reed.
Right.
So
My
let's take a
favorite.
look at Howland Reed. Yeah,
Yeah. So Howland's my favorite commander in Stark because I really like the way Cranoxmen play. They don't play like Starks at all. They play like free folks, I think, with all the
mm,
guerrilla tactic and everything. And it's just very thematic. So in this list, I brought the whole family. Obviously, Howland is leading the charge in House Stark Spearman because if you haven't tried this combination, you should. It's 5 points of hell that is very hard to remove because it has disrupt and it has stand your ground. So it's very hard to kill for 5 point units. And then if you can't kill it, it's going to use hold the line and hurt you back. Now the Winterfell guard, here it's to bring Mira Reed. There's no real reason why I think that Mira synergizes with it, but I do want to bring Mira, and this unit can keep her alive for quite a bit because hidden traps in the long run will whittle down your opponent. Um, Stark Bowman, which is another star unit and one that I've had great success with Jojen Reed. It's kind of expensive. It's an 8 point archer unit, but 7 dices that's always rerolled. Oh, that's really good. And of course, you bring House Tully Cavalier because Lance Cav very powerful nowadays. The NCUs are Arya Stark and Sansa Stark. Don't have to explain why; they're just very solid. And finally, Roderick Cassell because he provides rerolls for the Winterfell guards and the Tully Cavalier. and also if you open the round with sword on him, not only do you get rerollable archer shots, but you get a vulnerable. So this is more of a guerrilla hit and run style unit compared to the other one. And I've been having a lot of fun with this one in the international tournaments.
Sure. I guess my question is, why Jojen?
Like I said, I wanted to bring the whole family. If there's another Reed character, I would fit him in somewhere. But this is everyone. That's the dad and all the kids. The whole
Sure.
family is here. This is a crown
So
that's
then,
list.
The next question: would it make sense to swap Jojen into Winterfell guard and Mira into Bowman?
No. And I mean, yes, you get the reroll on the per unit with precision. That's doable too. I just like this because of the card. What was it called? Bog Devil Ambush. Right, because it shoots the opponent in their activation, and if you have Jojen in there, you reroll those shots. So I think it's pretty nasty.
I see. It's because of the tactics card.
Yeah.
All right, that makes a lot more sense now. Well, some people will still question you bringing Jojen.
Hey, I have fun with this list, and it's been working pretty okay.
Yeah, if you have fun and you've been having some success with this Bowman plus Jojen combo, continue to do it. There's no issue.
Oh boy.
All right, sorry for the cough. Right, so let's start to close out in a bit. Now we have looked at all our 3 lists. Let's head to the closing segment. All right, so with all said and done, do you have any final words or conclusion about the Winterfell guard?
Well, adaptive is an interesting ability in that its value is defined by what attachment you can bring. And Stark has a lot of good attachments, and they can bring neutral attachments. So every box from here on out that has an attachment, you will look at the Winterfell guard and see, hey, does it synergize with it? So I feel like it's an interesting unit to play around with, especially because Stark is lacking in 7 points infantry.
Right. So I think I'm curious that you brought. It's quite curious you brought that up because now you make me think about future boxes, and I realize tactics will probably have some new neutrals.
Are we getting spoilers here? Is this what this is?
I don't think it's spoilers, but I expect neutrals there, the neutrals there to go into the main game.
Right, and there are Stark characters.
I think there are a couple of characters in tactics that are exclusive to the tactics. I think there's one Stark attachment and one neutral attachment.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but basically, now that I think about it, because there is adaptive that is not in Free Folk, that is not in Stormcrow Merc, there's a lot more options to think about in Starks. So, yeah. So with that all said and done, we'd like to end off this video. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you'd like to see more of such video, let us know in the comments below. Anything you think we should improve on, because there's always room for improvement. Also, let us know. Also, to remember to like and subscribe to our channel. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching today. We'll see you next time in You Know Nothing.